Defense is the first act of strong nations. Poland, in its quest for sovereignty, chooses strength over appeasement, arms over inaction. Our history has taught us the value of preparedness and the cost of complacency. Where prior Poland had remained an outlier in its opposition to Russia, alongside the Baltics and Eastern European countries within Europe, the war in Ukraine saw them rise as the spearhead in aiding Ukraine in its war for survival and potentially building a new power bloc within Europe that is capable of standing up to Russia's imperialism. All of this is likely going to come at a significant cost to Poland. There are a number of complications Poland will need to overcome in order to achieve its ambitious goals. So, is Poland aiming too high by setting its sights on becoming one of the largest militaries in Europe? And what alternative plans or motives might be hiding behind its military enlargement? Let's roll. In light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the increased military threat, Warsaw is now poised to significantly increase its defense budget, aiming to reach 4% of its GDP. That is twice the NATO benchmark. Additionally, Poland is in the process of expanding the size of its army, with plans to grow its forces from 114,000 to 300,000 troops. The plans or increase don't stop there. Warsaw is undertaking the implementation of over 20 substantial procurement initiatives designed for the enhancement of the Polish armed forces. One of their primary objectives is to boost their artillery forces, which still play a crucial role in modern warfare, as proven by the battlefield in Ukraine. Poland is looking to acquire powerful rocket launchers and advanced artillery units, with such heavy hitters being backed by state-of-the-art self-propelled artillery vehicles. A notable acquisition in this branch has been the order for nearly 500 HIMARS systems, following their success in disrupting Russian logistics in Ukraine. General Dynamics, based in Michigan, has signed a substantial contract with Poland to manufacture 250 M1A2 Abrams. This deal is part of a larger $6 billion package, encompassing armored vehicles, weaponry, training tools, and personnel funding. Not to mention 180 K2 Black Panthers coming from South Korea. All of this will make Poland's tank fleet the biggest and most modern. By 2030s, Poland will have more tanks than the United Kingdom, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Italy combined. In the skies, Poland is introducing cutting-edge multi-role aircraft to both replace their Soviet MiGs, of which many have been donated to Ukraine, and to upgrade their aged American F-16s. They're also expanding their helicopter fleet and adding various drones for enhanced aerial reconnaissance. They have already acquired some top-notch air defense units and radars, with plans to acquire more in the future. Additionally, they're setting up short-range air and missile defense systems to keep their skies secure. They're also strengthening their naval capabilities with the addition of modern frigates. If successful, these efforts will make Poland the largest military in Europe, one of the most modern and the continent's most formidable artillery force. In other words, Poland seeks to create a military which is capable of facing Russia head-on, especially on a flat battlefield, such as the ground in Ukraine or Poland. We have already discussed Poland's historical experiences and why it's building up its military, but here's a quick recap. Over the centuries, Poland endured significant suffering at the hands of Russia, including the loss of statehood and cultural and political suppression, marked by the imposition of the Russian language and Orthodox Christianity. In the 20th century, Poland briefly regained independence after World War I, only to be invaded from two sides in 1939 and falling under the Soviet sphere of influence, following the Yalta Conference of 1945. After decades of communist rule through the Cold War, it would be in 1989, with the fall of communism in Eastern Europe, that Poland finally achieved true independence. These historical challenges have left Poland deeply concerned about the threat of Russian expansionism. To safeguard its sovereignty and prevent a repetition of history, Poland took a significant step by pursuing NATO membership. In the early 1990s, Poland initiated a series of partnerships with NATO, encompassing political dialogue, military exercises, and support for democratic and defense reforms. In 1997, Poland received a formal invitation to join NATO. ultimately becoming a NATO member on March 12, 1999. At the time, during a period of relative tranquility in Europe, this move seemed sufficient to address Poland's security and sovereignty concerns. However, this status quo was disrupted by the resurgence of Russian imperialism, which began to manifest itself in the early 2000s. This expansionist approach eventually escalated to military aggression, notably with Russia's invasion of parts of Georgia in 2008. In the years that followed, Poland and its neighbors raised alarms about Moscow's policies, but their concerns often went unheard in the West. Surprisingly, despite Poland's prominent warnings about Russia, there was little focus on strengthening their own military capabilities. Polish leaders appear to place heavy reliance on NATO and the US military. While trust in alliances is crucial, this approach may have been risky, given the rapidly deteriorating security situation in Europe influenced by Kremlin's actions, as well as the location of Warsaw, just 145 kilometers from the Belarusian border. Russian imperialism manifested even stronger in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea and direct involvement in the conflict that was taking part in eastern Ukraine, a blatant violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and international norms. Once again, Poland was amongst the states who condemned Russia's actions in the strongest of terms, but successive governments failed to agree on a significant and rapid expansion of the Polish armed forces. It took Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022 to finally push Poland's policymakers into launching multiple procurement programs aimed at seriously modernizing and increasing their armed forces. Another part of the plan might be connected with Poland's recent geopolitical maneuvers. One example is the significant humanitarian and military support extended to Ukraine. The list of weapons sent by Poland is extensive, including 14 MiG-29 fighter jets, 330 tanks, over 200 armored vehicles, and 95 self-propelled artillery pieces. Despite recent tensions over grain exports, a strong cooperation with Ukraine, both in the military sphere and beyond, is anticipated in the post-war period. Another noteworthy move was the proposal to station Polish military forces in Lithuania, put forth by Poland's president. It's worth mentioning that Polish military personnel are already stationed in the Latvian municipality of Adaži. An overlooked development was the delivery of 6 planes with weapons, ammunition, and equipment to Moldova for the use of their national police force. Despite its small size, Moldova is an active battleground against Russian influence and propaganda. This delivery could serve as a potential starting point for further strengthening of bilateral relations between Poland and Moldova. Considering these geostrategic moves and Poland's extensive rearmament efforts, we can better grasp its intentions. That is, the creation of a bloc of Central and Eastern European states with shared interests to counter the Russian military threat. In the event of Ukraine's victory, Eastern Europe could undergo a profound transformation, shedding its periphery status and becoming a potent regional counterbalance to dominant EU states. This would not only enhance Poland's geopolitical standing, but also strengthen the entire Eastern European region, forming a united front from the Baltic to the Black Sea to counter Russian influence. The actual implementation of this concept remains uncertain. While there is compelling argument for its necessity, stemming from occasional leniency in Western European states' approach to Russia, potential opposition may arise from countries like Germany and France. They could resist such a bloc's formation, fearing it might challenge their authority and influence within the European Union. Additionally, Ukraine possesses vast untapped resources, fertile soils, and potential for emissions-free electricity. Poland recognizes that tapping into Ukraine's potential requires regional integration, transparent institutions, and capital investments, all of which can benefit from a stable and victorious Ukraine. Lastly, Poland's alignment with Ukraine positions it favorably for support from the United States, which is actively investing in Eastern Europe. This partnership offers the potential for economic growth and security, while also bolstering Poland's role in shaping the evolving European political order. In sum, Poland's defense of Ukraine aligns with its historical concerns, regional interests, economic prospects, and its strategic position in shifting geopolitical landscape. It seems highly likely that such a large scale of planned orders is largely driven by a political populism aimed at gaining popularity here and now, rather than to be a real, comprehensive, and well thought out plan for harmoniously strengthening the armed forces. Some critics suggest that the timing of these plans might have a political motive. Given the recent election, it has been suggested that these ambitious military goals could be seen as a promise to boost support for the ruling party, rather than a real or serious promise that is meant to be fulfilled. In any case, the promise has failed to create enough to keep law and justice in control. During Poland's recent parliamentary election on October 15, 2023, a lot of people voted. The turnout was nearly 75%, which is the highest it's been since 1919. The right-wing party, known as Law and Justice, which has been in power for 8 years, still got the most votes out of any single party. However, when you combine the votes of opposition parties, they made up about 54% of the total. This means these opposition parties could team up to form a new government, which would likely be quite different from the current one. The opposition focuses more on liberal ideas and improving Poland's relationship with the European Union. All of this could potentially impact the country's militarization plans, as Law and Justice during its time in power had a strong focus on national sovereignty and security, which often translated into increased militarization. So overall, this could mean a shift in focus from militarization to diplomacy and international cooperation. With a high voter turnout and a significant portion of the vote going to opposition parties, it indicates a public desire for change. However, national security and sovereignty are still vital concerns for many Polish citizens, which could push the new government to maintain some level of militarization. One of the central challenges is the allocation of financial resources. Poland needs to judiciously manage its budget to address various national needs. This balancing act involves ensuring that essential areas such as healthcare, infrastructure, and education are adequately funded alongside military modernization efforts. For example, acquiring the F-35s is set to cost €4.3 billion, while obtaining 116 previously owned heavy-duty tanks will add up to about €3.5 billion. Acquiring 18 specialized rocket launchers and all the needed ammunition will add up to a whopping €9.4 billion. It's important to note that these expenses are just a portion of the overall financial commitment. There are also additional costs like building infrastructure, training personnel, and maintaining these assets over time. These expenses are a big burden for Poland, which is still grappling with economic challenges, particularly in healthcare and education. Adding to these challenges, Poland is currently facing economic difficulties that are not going away quickly. How much money Poland can spend on the military depends on how much its economy grows, and that's uncertain. In January of this year, the International Monetary Fund lowered its predictions for Poland's economic growth in 2023 and 2024. Persistent high inflation is also a big concern. Another big problem is the shortage of personnel. In December 2022, the Polish armed forces had 164,000 soldiers, including those in the Territorial Defense Forces. But the long-term goal is to increase this number to 300,000 soldiers by 2035. This is a challenging goal, as it's difficult to find volunteers. This is actually a problem for many NATO members, including the United States. Poland also has a low birth rate, so there are fewer young people who could become soldiers, and there's a growing elderly population that needs more money for social and healthcare services. Integration and proficiency using advanced military technology is vital for operational success. This task is comparable to implementing complex systems in the corporate world. It requires specialized knowledge and substantial time investment to ensure that the technology functions seamlessly. Additionally, it involves training personnel to harness the full potential of these advanced systems, contributing to the military's overall effectiveness. Additional difficulty that will arise from Poland's military acquisitions will be a logistical hurdle for maintaining military hardware from Polish, American, Korean, and German manufacturers. While most of its equipment may be interoperable, the fact that they are produced by so many different countries will mean a need for more spare parts, while the same mechanic may only be able to service a specific type of tank. These challenges are not unique to Poland, but have specific implications for the country's military modernization endeavors. One way or another, Poland is looking to show that it has long-term plans for becoming one of Europe's leading economic and military powers, and it seems poised to do just that. Now, if you haven't done so yet, I suggest watching my video on Poland's history. Click right there. And this is my Patreon map. Everyone on this map is a legend. Thank you all so very much.